Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I begin this evening's adjournment proceedings acknowledging that we're here on the territory of the traditional lands, unceded, of the Algonquin Nation. To them we say miigwech. I raised this question initially on February 9th, Madam Speaker, February 9th of 2022, and it relates to the Trans Mountain Pipeline. On that day, and it's amazing the timing, on that day, it marked exactly 2 years since there had been any public accounting of the costs to the Government of Canada and the people of Canada on the purchase of the Trans Mountain Pipeline. And the Prime Minister did respond to my question and say that the Government of Canada believed that the oil and gas sector and profits from this pipeline were still important in making the transition away from oil and gas. But within I think 24 hours later, the question and the Prime Minister's answer were rather overtaken by events, as I had foreshadowed. We were overdue for a financial accounting on the Trans Mountain Pipeline. And when that accounting came forward, again, I think it was the very next day, Trans Mountain Limited reported that they were, in fact, way over budget. So let's just review where we are. And by the way, the same day that report came out, our Minister of Finance said no more public money into Trans Mountain. So in the time I have tonight, I want to canvass two things. This is an economic loser. And in light of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report today, we need to cancel this project. So first, let's start out where we were. When it was a Kinder Morgan project before the National Energy Board, and I was an intervener, Kinder Morgan's estimate of costs of construction were $5.4 billion. By the time we bought it, like a bunch of suckers, by the time we bought it, it was up to a $7.4 billion estimated cost. That went to $9.3 billion. By the time the Government of Canada, by 2020, it was over budget to $12.6 billion. That had been our last update. And when it was updated once again, we were now over $21 billion with over another year to wait. Now, we say we're not going to put any more public money into it, but Madam Speaker, this has been purchased by a Crown corporation. The Crown corporation borrowed $15 billion against the Canada account, which means we're already spending $700 in interest a year. Beyond that, the people of Canada are going to be on the hook forever if this thing's allowed to be built, because Trans Mountain's deal with its customers in terms of the tolls it charges only allow the customers to be charged for 25% of any cost overruns. The 75% remaining will come back to the people of Canada once again. So we know this project is massively over budget, massively costing too much, and that the Crown Corporation itself has said we're in the vicinity of over $21 billion. The project is still not even half complete. With the remaining less than a minute I have, let's just drill down on the obvious. Today's report plus those before it, the International Energy Agency, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the world has a consensus that if we are going to hold to what we promised to do in Paris and hold to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius global average temperature increase, we must massively reduce our emissions of fossil fuels. We must, according to today's report from the IPCC, make sure that 2025 is the peak of our emissions forever and come down from there. Building this pipeline will destroy our Paris commitments. Building the pipeline is a threat to our future and will inevitably involve more costs to the people of Canada.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm pleased to speak in the adjournment debate this evening. As the member knows, just last week, we released our 2030 emissions reduction plan, one that sets out a very ambitious and achievable sector-by-sector approach to get us there. The plan builds on actions that have already been taken by many to reduce our carbon footprint, including Indigenous peoples, businesses, provincial, territorial governments, municipalities, civil society, and many, many Canadians across the country. Madam Speaker, I want to point out to the member, but as she already knows, our emissions reduction plan builds on existing initiatives. They include a robust price on carbon pollution, a ban on unabated domestic coal-fired electricity by 2030, and an upcoming clean fuel standard. last week's plan includes more than $9 billion in new investments to cut pollution and to grow our economy. Among them are measures to make it easier for Canadians to switch to electric vehicles, to green our homes and our buildings, and to help industries adopt to clean tech solutions, to make our energy grid even more cleaner. And there are many, many other initiatives. But I believe the member opposite knows that the global clean energy transition cannot happen overnight, nor should we drag our heels on this as Canadians or people around the globe. We just can't end oil and gas production with the snap of our fingers, not without risking energy security here and around the world. We also recognize that the energy sector has the know-how, the skills, and the financial clout to bring about the clean technology through breakthroughs that we've been able to see thus far and many others which are already been targeted. That's why we need to maximize the value of our resources, which is one of the reasons we remain committed to the Trans Mountain Expansion Project. TMX is creating thousands of good paying jobs right now, and once operational, it will unlock new global markets. This will generate billions of new revenues to fund clean energy solutions, which is the goal that we all want to get to. It is also creating additional investments and job opportunities for many Indigenous people, for many companies within Canada, and therefore advancing our government's commitment to reconciliation as well. But I want to stress, Madam Speaker, that TMX will not undermine our climate change efforts or our ability to reach our targets that we have set and committed to. So as the members have acknowledged, the project's price has risen, and she's noted that in her speech. And this is the result of project enhancements, safety and security requirements, construction delays that were caused by COVID-19 and BC's extreme weather events last summer, as well as new financial costs. It's not just one thing that have contributed to this. It is a whole gamut of different factors that have led to this increase. But the project is now half built. Trans Mountain Corporation will seek third-party funding if it needs further funds to complete the project. And I know the member understands this, but I share her passion and her desire to see things moving more rapidly on climate change. But there is a process to get there so that Canadians can all be a part of that exciting change in a way when we can manage sustainability within our country.
The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. It's not this government's fault that we're out of time. I've been working on this issue since the 1980s. I was there when we signed a commitment at the Rio Earth Summit. Government after government has kicked it down the road, but it's the unlucky fortune of the current government to be the place where we can't kick it down the road anymore. The current plan put forward by the Minister of Environment doesn't do what's needed because it's going to, if it succeeds, get to 40% below 2005 levels by 2030, which is wholly inadequate. And it includes an increase in oil and gas production by 21% by 2030. We don't have another chance. It's, as the IPCC said today, it's now or never. And the stakes couldn't be bigger. They're not missing a political target. They're condemning our children to an unlivable world, and that is not hyperbole. That's a fact. We have only so much time. We have to shut down Trans Mountain and no new fossil fuel infrastructure.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I want to thank the member for Saanich Gulf Islands for raising this matter many, many times in the House of Commons. And I also want to acknowledge and thank her for her lifelong, strong environmental advocacy on many issues that have affected Canadians and affected our planet. And I know that her experience, she will recognize that the Government of Canada is known around the world for having one of the most comprehensive and ambitious climate plans right now. And a plan that will reduce emissions by 40% below 2005 levels by 2030 and reach net zero by 2050. Madam Speaker, I want to mention some of the things that are in our emissions reduction plan because they're worth highlighting. One is how our government will work with the oil and gas sector to cut methane emissions by at least 75% by 2030.
The Honourable